What is up, my Squirtleites? It is I, your king, welcoming you back to more Let's Play Horizon Forbidden West. In the last episode, we finally made it here to the Daunt, the opening location here in the Forbidden West. And the first settlement that we've made it to is known as Chainscrape, where we met with an old friend, Petra, from the last game. And she gave us the lowdown that there is a lot going on here in Chainscrape that we're going to want to take care of before we make it to Barren Light and the subsequent embassy that we're supposed to get started so we can actually get into the Forbidden West. I know there's a lot of setup going on, and we're going to learn a lot more about the things that are going on in this episode. A lot of talking, a lot of dialogue in this episode, so be prepared for that. However, before we do anything else, there are two things I want to draw your attention to. The first thing is actually here in the settings real quick. So I've been playing up to this point on normal difficulty, which is very self-explanatory. We've got story, easy, normal, hard, and very hard. As you can see, a couple of extra settings came up if you go into the easier difficulties. But I want to talk about custom difficulty, all right? So this is something that Sony games in particular have been very good at for the last few releases, and Horizon Forbidden West is no exception. This is something I appreciate in any game that has it, but you can custom tailor certain aspects of the difficulty to your playstyle. Now, damage to Aloy and enemy health, I'm going to be leaving these on normal. I'm not going to be changing these at all, but if you want to, there are different concessions that you can make. Something that I've noticed a lot of people like to do, it's a interesting way to play, is to move damage to Aloy up to very hard, but then the enemy health down to easy or even story difficulty, which kind of allows for this glass cannon play style where it's just very fast paced and the enemies can one-shot you, but you can also effectively one-shot them very easily. But like I said, I'm going to stick to normal. It's just the way I want to play. I do find that enemies tend to get a little bit too damage spongy when you get up to hard and very hard on enemy health, so I will not be messing with any of that. We'll skip over this one for a second because we'll get back to it, but let's talk about concentration duration. These three settings right here tend to fall into the easier difficulty categories. If you have a hard time lining up shots, you struggle with that sort of thing, there is auto concentration, which will instantly take effect the second you aim down sights, as long as it's available. It's still going to drain your meter, obviously, so it's not like you can just use it on command, but it sets it for you without having to worry about setting it yourself. And there's also auto heal whenever your health goes below 50%, but then to add on to the concentration effect, you can also make the duration last a little bit longer if you're one of those people that struggles with lining up your shots very easily. Again, it's only available on story, easy, and custom difficulty, so the disadvantages to setting to those easier difficulties will come therein, but it's kind of an accessibility option for those people who just struggle with aiming. The one that I want to talk about, though, the only thing that I'm going to be changing here is easy loot. Now, it's set to on. It's usually off by default, but we're going to set it to on. And here's why. So easy loot, it pretty much bypasses the whole need to shoot off certain components from machines. We were talking about the burrower sound shells a few episodes ago and how you need to shoot those off of their chests to acquire those, otherwise you're not going to get them. A lot of machines have these sorts of parts. Not every machine, but many do. Me personally, as much as I think that it is an interesting idea, I find it to needlessly and tediously drag out the game even more than it already is dragged out, to a point where it can actually be quite infuriating, because there's going to be a lot of moments in this game, especially when it comes to upgrading your weapons and your armor, where you're going to need to hunt for these specific pieces. And if you're not specifically going after them at all times, it can be really difficult to stock up on these and have them when you need them. And again, I just think it drags things out too much. This whole shooting the specific parts off of creatures thing was only something that you needed to worry about on a select few machines in the first game. In this game, it's almost all of them. And it gets to a point where you are going to spend so much time hunting for these parts that it's just going to add hours upon hours onto your game time just to upgrade everything you need and get all the quests done that you want to get done. So, with easy loot on, I will passively get all of these parts without having to take the time to go out of my way to get them, if that makes sense. I'll demonstrate it a little bit later. But this is just going to considerably shave down our game time and just make the entire experience a lot less tedious. Actually bring it more in line with how it was with Horizon Zero Dawn, where the looting was not that... It didn't need to be anything more than it already was. The way that looting and crafting worked in Horizon Zero Dawn was mindless enough that it didn't obstruct the experience. And I think if you have easy loot off, it goes beyond that point in this game to where it isn't so mindless, and it does become a little bit of a hindrance on the rest of the experience, which is why I will be turning it on personally. So that is all I wanted to explain there. And the last thing I want to address, we can't go to any of these shops here because of the work stoppage, but we can go over here, and this is our stash. So whenever we grab an excess of items, they will be automatically sent to here for us to retrieve later. Now, there are a few things in here that are already in place, things like this bristleback tusk and fanghorn antler. I did not get these. These were put in here automatically. There's a few things in here that are like that, including some outfits that I got because I got the digital deluxe edition. We'll talk about those a little bit later, but if you ever want to restock your resources like Ridgewood, Blaze, Chillwater, things like that, just hold down square and it'll fill up your inventory as much as it possibly can. I don't have any more room for Ridgewood, Machine Muscle, Chillwater, so it's going to leave those in my stash. Same with fast travel packs. We'll grab those, and I did not actually mean to exit all the way out because we also have strike pieces. We will grab that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. We also got weapons here. So I'm going to take these as well. We got a behemoth short bow and a thunder sling, all things that I can use. And then these are digital deluxe items specifically, these little pieces of armor. Now, none of these are any stronger than the armor that we currently have. They just have slightly different effects, and we'll go over those over at the workbench here in just a second. So let me do that. So, go past that. Let's use the workbench. Okay, so if we go into our outfits, we'll see our Nora Anointed, which we did level up to level 2. So it's a little bit stronger. Oh, I guess I didn't. No, I didn't level it up. I thought I did. No, sorry, I leveled it up to level 1. Excuse me. So it's a little bit stronger. It has concentration regen, potent medicine, things like that. We have Karja Behemoth Elite, which is more focused around straight up damage, melee damage, power attack, and critical strikes all increased, as well as additional melee defense and a little bit of shock defense. Nora Legacy, which is Aloy's outfit from the very beginning of the first game, gives her bonus defense to acid and plasma, the 2 of the 3 new elements to this game, as well as skills for silent strike, heal, potent medicine, and extra medicine capacity, so you can hold a little bit more in the way of berries. And then Nora Thunder Elite is more about impact damage and fire damage. It also is has a lot of abilities centered around making like a last stand should you get really low on health. So like low health range, second chance, which I believe gives you an option to actually come back if you get your health knocked all the way off, and then low health defense, which if you find yourself getting in sticky situations a lot, especially in harder difficulties, this is the armor for you. But all of these were added in with the Digital Deluxe Edition. The only one I'm probably going to mess with is Karja Behemoth Elite, but for right now, we're going to stick with Nora Anointed. Now then, I also grabbed some weapons, and we can talk about those really quick by heading into our inventory. I'm going to equip a few of those. The Nora Legacy Spear is just a cosmetic difference. It's no stronger than the Champion Spear that we're already carrying. The Karja Behemoth Short Bow, though, I'm not going to mess with this much. It just gives you more arrows that you can play around with. But the Thunder Sling allows me to get Blast Bombs, so I'm going to put that in that category there. I'll be able to craft those later. We also got more fast travel packs. But aside from that, I think we are good to go. So, you see all these exclamation points on our HUD on the top? These are where all of the quests are. There are some other additional things that we can do. But for right now, we are going to head down here and talk with the main man himself, whom Petra alluded to in the last episode, Ulvund, but more specifically, the guy that is talking to Ulvund.
The bristlebacks threaten us all. What do you want, Ulvund? Some kind of payment?
My dear magistrate, you think I can be bought? If you want that whistle blown, all you have to do is have your soldiers remove the bristlebacks and sign the concession decree. Face it, what other choice do you have?
Hi.
Savior, what auspicious timing. Might we discuss a matter of importance to the Sundom?
We might. Later.
Very well. I shall be waiting.
So, the savior herself. Walloper of Derval, gutter of youth.
Maybe.
I've heard many tales of your beauty and heroics, my fierce lady warrior. Ulvund Freeholder, at your service. So, what could have dragged you away from the fine silks and wine of Meridian to this smudge of a settlement? Your saviorly attention must be needed elsewhere.
I'm here for the embassy and...
The embassy? Why, by the forge. Ah, Greater gears for greater matters. Guess that means you'll be moving on.
Once I've dealt with any problems around here that need my saviorly attention.
Ah, the bristlebacks, of course. Got to get rid of them if you want that embassy to take place. Well, best get to it, hey? And off you go.
Not so fast.
All right, so we're gonna grill Ulvund here with a few questions, as well as some other people. Like I said, this is gonna be a very dialogue-heavy episode. We're gonna get several of these, so do be aware. So I'm just going to kind of leave the commentary to a bare minimum, and we're just going to let all of the dialogue speak for itself. It goes along with the world building, lore, all that kind of stuff. We learn everything we need to know about what's going on. So let's start with this one.
You ordered the work stoppage?
Indeed I did. We're laborers, not soldiers. Until the Karja clean up their mess and give us the fair deal we deserve, I'm not risking Osseram lives.
Fair deal? You mean your concession decree?
It's not my decree. It's on behalf of all the good Osseram laborers of this land who do all the back-breaking work, while only the Karja reap the rewards. All we're asking for is the ability to share in this prosperity for a land worked by the people, for the people.
Right. And just how much would be your share?
Only an amount appropriate to my contributions to this community, of course.
If Chainscrape is on Karja land, shouldn't a Karja be in charge? Who appointed you?
The sensibilities of good Osseram folk, of course. You think a Karja can head this whole venture? Ah! The magistrate can barely make the trek from Barren Light without losing a few screws.
So you have no real authority then? People only follow you because you say so. Loudly.
Anyone who has followers has authority. I've been with Chainscrape from the beginning. I mean, I'm practically its founder, and its honest folk know I'm indispensable to its success.
You said you founded Chainscrape. Somehow I doubt that.
Practically founded, I said. I alone saw its potential when it was just a smattering of tents in Barren Light's shadow. I invested in the mine, convinced some friends back home to do the same, and here we are. You could say Chainscrape is what it is thanks to me.
Oh, so you're not just standing around and profiting off everyone else?
Not at all. Sure, I make a little return on my investment here and there, but my main priority, as it was from the beginning, is to look after the well-being of these honest, working Osseram.
You don't seem to have a high opinion of the magistrate?
Well, I refuse to play nice to some fancy-robed parchment pusher when my fellow laborers are being bullied, intimidated, and taken advantage of.
How noble of you.
Noble, ha! Born with a hammer in hand, I was. Nobody handed me anything or dropped opportunity into my lap. Everything I've achieved, I've done on my own.
And where is this hammer now?
The, burden of leadership forced me to set it aside. The Karja risk nothing, while demanding that good Osseram gamble with their lives out there. Someone had to step up and say no more.
Where's the whistle?
Right in the middle of town, but with the threat out there, I'm not endangering innocent Osseram lives.
I'm going to clear out the bristlebacks. And when I'm done, this valley is going to get moving.
If that's what it takes. Until then, I'll keep looking after the safety of these good folk.
Just be ready to blow the whistle.
Yeah, so Ulvund is clearly absolutely full of crap.
See what that Karja magistrate wanted.
I mean, just everything about him is just, you want to wipe that smirk off of his face somehow. Probably with a good slap, but we're going to head over here and talk to this next person really quickly before we head on into the tavern. There's a lot of people to talk to in there, a lot of things to take care of in there. That's enough that it's probably going to actually take us a couple of episodes to go through all of it, so yeah. But yeah, let's talk to this guy over here.
What happened to you?
That damn mine is what happened to me. It won't be the last injury if Ulvund keeps shoving those tongs into those tunnels.
What mine?
Northeast of Chainscrape, where the river ends. I told Corvin we should stop when the first cave-in happened, but Ulvund probably threatened to cut off our pay. Or worse.
How about you slow down and take me through it? You mentioned you were injured in a cave-in.
Yeah, a couple days ago. That's how I hurt this blasted leg. Corvin and the others were opening a new vein while I was checking on an older one. As soon as their blast hit, the tunnel I was in collapsed. Might have dodged it if I wasn't running on barely a spark of sleep. We were pushing too hard and too fast.
And you're afraid Corvind and the others might not be as lucky if it happens again.
Mm-hmm. Hit the nail right on the head.
How come Olvin's in charge? Don't these mines belong to the Karja?
Try telling Olvin that. He brought in all the backing to get them open. Might as well own them. Fire and spit. You ask him. He owns us as well.
Who's Corvind?
He's their foreman. And a damn good one. The kind that knows how to deal with management when it gets unreasonable. But Olvind... his demands go beyond unreasonable. Corvin's been doing his best to appease him. He even blamed himself for my injury when it was Olvin who ordered the extra shifts.
Sounds like a good guy.
That's why we all put up with the long hours and lousy conditions. But if the whole mine becomes unstable, I'd rather suffer Olvin's wrath than die buried in rubble.
I could check in on your crew if I'm in the area.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll have to head over that way a little bit later, but first things first, we need to head on to the brewery. There's another quest for us to grab in there, which we'll do in this episode. Then we got to sit down and talk to Petra, and we are going to be learning ourselves a new game that has actually been added here into Horizon Forbidden West. Probably going to take the majority of the next episode to go over, but it's a bit of an interesting little game, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Hey, Mildev. I took some of your stew last time I went into the wilds. Kept me going for a week. Felt like I could have put a strider in a sleeper hold.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Sounds like you're serving up some impressive provisions here.
Not again. You can have the discount too, but you'll have to come back later.
I think you have me confused with someone else.
Olvin didn't send you?
No.
Oh, my apologies. It's just that his minions won't stop pestering me. Now I've even worn out my special grill. Since I'm in the midst of a crisis, perhaps you could skip to what it is you wanted?
Some of your food?
Of course.
Are Ulvin's people causing you problems?
Oh, yeah. They constantly demand my best, but the equipment I need to make my signature dishes isn't built for batch cooking. And don't get me started on the Olvin discount they feel so entitled to.
And if you refuse?
I make meals, not trouble.
How did you end up in Chainscrape?
Heard about a new and upcoming town at the edge of the frontier. Where there's a town, there's a tavern. I was in need of work. So I got myself out here and started cooking. Some of these people had never tasted proper boars and berries stew before. Anyway, next thing I knew, people kept coming back. I guess they liked my food. Or the ale.
Your last customer mentioned your cooking really kept him going out in the wild. Where I'm headed, I could use some of that.
I would be happy to oblige, especially since you have the decency to ask pleasantly.
But
my special groove griddle is no more. Without it, I can't cook any of my signature dishes. I hate to think what'll happen when I'm forced to refuse Olvin or his goons. Even if I already had the right ingredients, there's nothing I can do. Unless you can source me a temporary replacement?
what do you need?
For the ingredients, a few pieces of decent wild meat, and I'd say a big handful of bitter leaf stems. That'll do. As for the griddle, a corrugated metal panel might suffice until I can have a new one forged. You'd likely find one in a scrounger pile if you follow the river to the northeast. Don't worry, I'll clean it first. You'll have no issue finding boars and bitter leaf on your way, assuming you're as much a hunter-gatherer as your clothing suggests.
Thanks, Mildev. I'll keep an eye out.
So that's what gratitude sounds like.
And don't let anyone push you around, okay?
If you say so.
Aw, he's a sweetheart. Okay, because, like I said, because this is a very dialogue-heavy episode, we're gonna go a little bit longer on this one. I think we'll talk to Petra, and then we'll also go talk to the magistrate, and then we will call it here.
Change your mind about that brew? Come for that beer after all, eh? Here, sit down. Get a pint in her hand. Wasn't expecting you to swing by.
Since when do I do what's expected?
There's that spark. Fire and spit.
Fire and spit.
That's a blast from the bellows. Won't fix the forge, but at least I can forget about my troubles for a while.
Like what?
Take your pick. We got bodies to bury from the bristlebacks, the work stoppage, Olvin grating the gears about his concession decree. Hey! Weapons off the table! Ah, don't listen to me. Nothing a cold brew and knocking some heads together can't fix eventually.
So the bristlebacks in the Daunt. Where did they come from?
That's the thing. No one rightly knows. They just showed up one day, rampaging around the valley like they exploded out of a forge. Lost some good people. But I heard talk of some vanguards trying to take them down.
Did they come through here?
Stopped by briefly for supplies. Olvind was none too pleased. Won't be able to crank it to his advantage once the bristlebacks are gone.
But how could bristlebacks and the Daunt help Olvind?
2 words. Concession decree. Since no one knows where the bristlebacks came from, Olvind has taken to blaming the Karja for him. He's hoping to dig up enough old resentments to get a strike going until the concession's signed. This is just his latest attempt. He's been trying to rile up the workers since the day he rolled into town.
And people actually believe him?
Lots of folks suffered at the hands of the Mad King during the Red Raids. Give him half a reason, they'll blame the Karja for anything.
Damn Karja slavers.
I thought you'd be back in Freeheap.
Well, after the big battle at Meridian, I went back. But realized it was running smooth. Didn't need me. Heard about the rebuilding out at Barren Light. Figured they could use another hammer. Been scraping by ever since.
You could always leave.
And go back east? Nah. I ain't one to leave a lit forge. Besides, someone's gotta be a squeaky wheel for the workers around here.
So about Olvind.
Around here, everything's about Olvind.
How'd he end up in charge?
He got here early, like a squirrel smelling a fat nut. He knew rebuilding Barren Light would need stone and timber. So he jangled purses all over Mainspring, getting investors to front claims on anything in the Daunt that might be worth a damn. Thing is, all the bankers back home know that this is Karja land, and the Sun King can revoke those claims at any time. That's why he's desperate for the magistrate to sign off on a concession decree.
This concession decree, what is it exactly? And how would it help Olvind?
It's pig diddle, that's what.
A writ that would put all Osram claims in the Daunt under Osram law, even though they're on Karja land. It would mean that any existing ore, stone, and timber claims couldn't be revoked by the Karja. No more risk, no more hesitation for investors back in the claim to pour in the shards and expand their business. And since Olvind has a stake in all those claims, it would make him richer than a scrapper in a junk heap. Not to mention Chainscrape would become an Osram municipality, so he could buy enough votes to call himself an elderman. He's a sly old badger, I'll give him that. Figures if he keeps up the pressure, eventually the magistrate will sign.
Well, I have to be going. Thanks for the drink, Petra. I'm glad I stopped by.
Anytime, Flamehair.
Had enough of the wilds.
All right, we will address this lady over here in the next episode. In fact, it's probably going to take the majority of that episode to do so. But we got to talk to Javad now before we go any further, because this is going to open up a whole lot of quests to us for pretty much everywhere inside the Daunt. Not exactly everywhere, but a lot of places around the Daunt. I'll stop talking and just let Javad do the stuff.
Savior, thank you for taking the time. And my condolences that you had to endure Ulvund's bloviating.
I've dealt with worse. It sounds like he's really trying to put you over the barrel.
The idea that the Karja purposely let bristlebacks into the Daunt, it's completely absurd. But the louder and longer he says it, the more support he'll get for his damned concession decree.
How did the bristlebacks get into the Daunt?
No one knows for sure. The first report of them came from west of the quarry. But unless they have wings I don't know about, I don't see how they could have come over the mountains.
No other way in.
The only way I know about is Barren Light. Look, if you can get to the bottom of this, I can offer a considerable bounty in return. Help me shut Ulvund up.
What is this concession decree that Ulvund wants?
He wants the Sundom to designate portions of the Daunt as Oseram holdings. Only the portions, mind you, that produce any value.
Let me guess. Because he stands to profit somehow?
Exactly. With the Daunt under Oseram law, he could secure more investment for their numerous ventures.
He can't get those investments without the concession?
No. Not while there's a chance the Sundom could revoke their access. Hence, why the concession is so important to him. And why blaming the Karja for the bristlebacks, no matter how absurd, works in his favor.
How does blaming the Karja for the bristlebacks help Ulvund get his concession?
Look around. This may be the Sundom, but Chainscrape is all gears and rust and bad ale. Claiming that the Karja loosed the bristlebacks in order to intimidate Oseram laborers into obedience. Well, let's just say no one here has forgotten the atrocities of the Mad Sun King. And with the bristlebacks bringing work in the valley to a halt, Ulvund has plenty of time to pick at barely healed wounds.
And if the Oseram refuse to work, unless the concession is signed, you won't have a choice.
Correct. The reconstruction of Barren Light must continue.
How did you get stuck out here?
I asked for the posting, believe it or not. Overseeing the entire valley on behalf of the Sun King? It was an honor. Is an honor, I mean.
But your job would be a lot easier without someone like Ulvund blasting hot air all the time?
Ulvund's not going anywhere. He's been around longer than I have. Even fancies himself the founder of Chainscrape. Well, I'll find a way to live with him. I have to.
You said the bristlebacks were first spotted west of the quarry?
Yes, according to one terrified laborer, said the ground trembled before they came charging down the hillside. He took off and ran all the way here.
Good place to start looking, then.
If you learn the truth, maybe Ulvund will stop blaming the Karja for every problem under the sun, and maybe then he'll actually focus on rebuilding Barren Light instead.
All right, that was a lot to go over, and we're not quite done yet, but we're getting there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so very much for watching this episode of Let's Play Horizon Forbidden West. I can't even talk right now. Let's Play Horizon Forbidden West. I hope you all enjoyed it very much. Next episode, we are going to learn the ways of Machine Strike, so I hope you're all looking forward to it. I will see you all in the next one.